What if I told you that World War II was won not by American factories, not by British courage, but by a country most people forget was even involved? A country that never fired a single shot in combat. Yet without it, Britain would have surrendered by 1941. This is the story of Venezuela and the oil that changed everything. 1939. Europe stands on the edge of war. Britain has the world's largest navy, the most advanced air force in Europe, and an empire spanning a quarter of the globe. But Britain has almost no oil. Not a single major oil field on British soil. Every tank, every plane, every ship runs on imported fuel. And in 1939, 70% of that fuel comes from one place. Lake Maracaibo, northwestern Venezuela. In 1939, this was the largest oil-producing region in the entire Western Hemisphere. Larger than Texas, larger than California, larger than anything the United States had. 563,000 barrels of oil every single day. To put that in perspective, that's enough fuel to fill 23,000 fighter planes daily. But crude oil is useless without refineries. You can't pour raw petroleum into a Spitfire, and this is where the story gets interesting. Just off the Venezuelan coast, two tiny Dutch islands, Aruba and Curaçao. Together, they housed the largest oil refining complex on Earth. The Largo refinery on Aruba, capacity 480,000 barrels per day. The refinery on Curaçao, 11 million barrels per month. These two islands, smaller than most American counties, produced more aviation fuel than all of Europe combined. Here's how it worked. Tankers loaded crude oil at Lake Maracaibo. Short trip to Aruba or Curaçao for refining. Then, the dangerous part. 3,000 miles across the Atlantic, through waters that would soon become the most dangerous shipping lanes in history. Final destination, Britain. In 1939, this route carried 70% of all British petroleum imports. 70%. Without it, the Royal Navy doesn't sail. The RAF doesn't fly. Britain doesn't survive. 1940. April. Germany invades Denmark and Norway. May. The Netherlands, Belgium, Luxembourg fall in weeks. June. France surrenders. In just 3 months, Britain goes from having allies across Europe to standing completely alone. And here's what the history books don't tell you. When France fell, Britain didn't just lose an ally. They lost access to French oil reserves. They lost Mediterranean shipping routes. They lost everything. The only reliable oil supply left? Venezuela. July 1940. The Battle of Britain begins. Every day, hundreds of German bombers cross the English Channel. Every day, RAF pilots scramble to intercept them. A Spitfire burns about 85 gallons of fuel per hour. A Hurricane, roughly the same. During the Battle of Britain, the RAF flew over 30,000 sorties. That's approximately 2.5 million gallons of aviation fuel in just 4 months. Where do you think that fuel came from? Every third plane defending London was flying on Venezuelan oil. Winston Churchill understood this better than anyone. In a classified memo from 1940, he wrote, and I quote, "The oil supplies from the Caribbean are vital to our existence. Their interruption would be a disaster of the first magnitude." Churchill wasn't exaggerating. British military planners calculated that without Venezuelan oil, the RAF would be grounded within 6 weeks. The Royal Navy immobilized within 3 months. 6 weeks. That's all that stood between Britain and defeat. 1941. The year everything changes, but not in the way you might think. For the first 11 months of 1941, the United States was not in the war. American oil not available. Britain had to survive on Venezuelan supplies alone. And survive they did. In 1941, Venezuela produced 221,902,000 barrels of oil. That's 608,000 barrels. Every single day. An increase of 8% from 1939 in the middle of a world war. And here's something remarkable. The men who made this possible, the Venezuelan oil workers, the tanker crews, the refinery operators on Aruba, they never carried weapons. They never wore uniforms. But they faced danger every single day. German U-boats prowled the Caribbean. Every tanker that left port was a target. In 1941 alone, merchant sailors on the Venezuela-Britain route suffered casualties comparable to front-line infantry units. December 7th, 1941. Pearl Harbor. America enters the war. And suddenly, Venezuelan oil becomes even more critical. Now, it wasn't just Britain that needed fuel. The entire American Pacific Fleet destroyed. A new fleet had to be built, trained, fueled. And guess where a significant portion of that fuel came from? The same refineries on Aruba and Curaçao that had been keeping Britain alive now had to supply 2 Allied war machines. The pressure was about to get much, much worse. Hitler wasn't blind. German intelligence knew exactly how important Venezuelan oil was. They knew about Aruba, about Curaçao, about the tanker routes. In January 1942, Hitler approved a plan to cut the oil artery once and for all. Operation Neuland. A wolf pack of German and Italian submarines was sent to the Caribbean with one mission: destroy everything. What followed was the darkest chapter in Caribbean maritime history. February 1942. In a single month, German submarines sank 25 oil tankers in the Caribbean. March, another 19. April, 22 more. By the end of 1942, over 300 ships had been sunk in Caribbean waters. Thousands of sailors dead. Millions of barrels of oil burning on the surface of the sea. The ratio was devastating. For every German submarine lost, 23 Allied ships went down. 23 to 1. And yet, the oil kept flowing, despite the losses, despite the danger, despite the submarines waiting in the darkness. Tanker crews volunteered for runs they knew might be their last. Refinery workers doubled their shifts. Venezuelan oil fields increased production. In 1942, Venezuela's share of British oil imports didn't drop. It increased to 80%. 80% of British fuel coming through waters where death waited behind every wave. That's not logistics. That's courage. 1943. The tide begins to turn. The Allies finally learned how to fight back. Convoy systems were perfected. Air patrols covered the Caribbean. New radar technology tracked submarines. Hunter-killer groups went on the offensive. By mid-1943, the U-boat threat in the Caribbean was broken. German submarines still lurked, ships still sank, but the slaughter was over. And Venezuelan oil, it flowed faster than ever. 1944, the year of liberation. June 6th, D-Day. The largest amphibious invasion in history. 156,000 troops landed on the beaches of Normandy, supported by 7,000 ships, 11,000 aircraft. Do you know how much fuel that required? In the first 100 days after D-Day, the Allied forces in Europe consumed over 1 billion gallons of petroleum products. 1 billion gallons. The tanks that liberated Paris, the trucks that supplied the front, the planes that dominated the skies. A significant portion of that fuel came from Venezuelan crude, refined on Aruba and Curaçao. Historian Gregory Zaro put it best. The Allies floated to victory on a sea of oil. And that sea, more than any other source, came from Venezuela, not from Texas, not from California, not from the Middle East. Venezuela, a country that most World War II histories mention in a footnote, if they mention it at all. May 8th, 1945. Victory in Europe. The war that had consumed the continent for 6 years was finally over. In the celebrations that followed, in London, in Paris, in New York, no one mentioned Venezuela. No parades for the tanker crews. No medals for the refinery workers. No monuments for the oil fields of Lake Maracaibo. Just quiet gratitude from those who understood. So let's ask the question that historians avoid. What if Venezuela hadn't been there? What if Lake Maracaibo had been in German hands? What if the refineries on Aruba had been destroyed? What if those tanker routes had been cut completely? Britain would have run out of fuel by late 1941. The RAF grounded. The Royal Navy immobilized. The Army unable to move. Without Venezuelan oil, Britain would have faced an impossible choice: negotiate with Hitler or starve. There would have been no base for American forces to launch D-Day, no unsinkable aircraft carrier off the coast of Europe, no Allied victory in the West. The war would have been lost. The men who kept that oil flowing never asked for recognition. The Venezuelan roughnecks who worked the rigs in tropical heat. The Dutch and Caribbean refinery workers who processed the crude around the clock. The merchant sailors, British, Norwegian, American, Venezuelan, who sailed into submarine-infested waters, knowing they might not come back. Over 8,000 merchant seamen died in the Caribbean theater alone. They didn't carry rifles. They didn't wear combat medals. But they won the war just as surely as any soldier. And history forgot them. Today, the Lago refinery on Aruba stands abandoned, a rusting monument to a forgotten war. Venezuela's oil industry has gone through boom and bust, revolution and crisis. The country that once fueled the Allied victory now struggles with its own challenges. But the contribution remains. Somewhere in the archives are the shipping manifests, the production records, the lists of sailors who never came home. The evidence is there for anyone willing to look. World War II was won by many factors: American industrial might, Soviet sacrifice, British resilience, the bravery of soldiers on every front. But none of it would have been possible without oil. And for the first 3 years of the war, when Britain stood alone, when America hadn't yet entered the fight, when everything hung in the balance, that oil came from Venezuela. The oil that won the war, and the country the world forgot to thank. Subscribe for more untold stories of World War II. Next, the Nazis of Caracas, Hitler's secret supporters in Venezuela.